Welcome everyone to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. The meeting is now open to statements of no more than 5 members of the public of no more than 2 minutes in length each.
Hi, do I speak from here?
It would be done. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Rochelle Ryder, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the continued support and continued opening of the District of Lillooet Pool Facility. A recent arrival in Lillooet, this is our 3rd year here, and my family, I was looking for a new location. The pool was definitely a consideration. We didn't look at communities that didn't have a pool, and we're a little dismayed when we moved here to find out that the pool wasn't being used fully and was only open in a very limited fashion. So I believe in working towards what you want. I joined SWIMS and helped advocate for this extended opening we have. And it was a lovely campaign that, you see the pool's open longer now. And I feel that because we were able to get community support and raise the funds we needed to support the 10-month opening, I feel that that was, in a way, a referendum from the community showing their support and continued need for that for health and wellness in our community. I myself and my family have enjoyed the pool and having it open. As a member of SWIMS board, it's been really rewarding to see that we could bring in staff and lifeguards to keep it open. And I feel that to move forward in the future, we need to maintain that staff and continue supporting their training and getting new staff in. And I think that I would really like for the District of Lillooet to look in the future to how we can sustainably continue this movement and keep the pool open. I feel that as a member of SWIMS, I'm honored to help keep the pool open. However, we are a very small volunteer organization. A lot of our members are, very active in many community endeavors. Keeping the pool open is one of them. And we put a lot of energy and effort into this campaign this last year. However, that's not really sustainable. We are more than, myself, I will speak personally, I'm more than willing to help raise funds to support programs and do what we can. However, I would just like to make the community aware that that's not sustainable to expect a small volunteer organization to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. So that's why I'm here today. As a concerned member of the community who wants to see the pool continue to be open far into the future, and I would like to call on the district to work together to come up with plans to see that happen, so it maintains as being a really valuable part of our community. I feel that the pool is part of the facility. We don't ask soccer to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I feel as though maybe the arena users aren't asked to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I feel as though it's more a responsibility, and that SWIMS showed it was possible. We helped as much as we could, and the community showed us support in that. It's also not fair to the community to ask them to keep on giving and giving and giving to something that really should be maintained and supported fully by the District of Lillooet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryder. Any further? Ms. Birchstone?
Okay, thank you. I'm dressed to go to the pool. No disrespect intended. Aquafit is going to be on, and I notice every week that I go, there's more people at Aquafit. It's phenomenal. When I come through there and the kids are doing swimming lessons, they're learning how to swim. My littlest niece is learning how to swim. I don't want her to drown out at the lake in the summertime, so this is like really a good thing. You know that I supported the pool as SLRD Area B. Started with 20,000 towards that 200,000 that was raised. That was an astonishing accomplishment, but I agree that it's not really, this management of this should be the district. It's more than a group of volunteers can do, and I know that they're gonna continue to help, I certainly am. But I think managing it and in a large part owning it should be the district, and I think you could be really proud of it. Like, this year has been amazing. So I will continue to support it as Area B, but maybe not in that great fashion. I found also on a personal note, it was just a coincidence that my hip surgery happened just when the pool was open, so I could use it as like an amazing therapy. It was by far the best therapy. Yes, I went to a hips and knees program in Kamloops, but by the time you've driven the 4 hours, you've undone any good therapy that the time in the pool there might have done. So I'd like to see it continue to be here, open year round. Yeah, it's just that it's been busy, it's vibrant. Oh, most importantly to mention here is I know from direct reports from doctors that it is a retention and a recruitment tool for them. And I believe that would be true for all the other health professionals as well. It's another good reason. And being someone that has to take the Lewis niece to hockey, man, that is so complicated and it is so expensive compared to taking her to the pool, which is something that every kid can enjoy, and I see that they will. Yeah, that's it, thanks.
Thanks. Is there anyone else?
It's okay to take notes.
Yes.
So my name is Patty Weston, and I'm here to echo and reinforce and add some of my own comments about urging you to appropriately fund the pool ongoing 10 months of the year, well into the future, at least in the 5-year plan. I want to make it really clear that I'm speaking as a private tax-paying citizen. I am not on the SWIMS board. I joined SWIMS as soon as I got here because I was devastated that the pool was not open. And going through a COVID year without the pool being open when you could have done it. I keep thinking I've let go of that, but I haven't. So I'm speaking as a citizen of Lillooet that likes swimming, but I certainly did help with the fundraising. And what an incredible achievement that was from a very small band of very caring, determined people. But more importantly, the information for you was that was a resounding statement about how the community values this resource. So I am urging you to immediately put at least $160K into your budget for the next 5 years to open it year round so that people can plan, relax, we can get predictable employment for the lifeguards. I think SWIMS has primed the pump for you, and it's your responsibility. And I feel like you've really offloaded it. And it's time for you to step up to the obvious. Because I really don't understand. I don't understand my sense, I could be wrong, but my sense is that you see the pool as a burden. But it is an incredible asset in a very small community that doesn't have very many built assets. It's a tremendous resource for the health and happiness of the community and visitors. And as our regional rep said, and your economic development report last week said, it is a very significant factor in attracting and retaining professionals and young families, which is exactly what we need and what we want. And the proof is in the data, and the data is there, but I'm not sure that anybody's looking at it. Do many of you have any idea how many visits there have been to the pool it's been open roughly 100 days, going through COVID, going through restrictions with 12-year-olds, going through and dealing with bankers' hours and virtually no marketing from the district. Want to take a guess?
No, we're not going to. We'll listen to you.
It almost 3,500 visits. And as Vivian mentioned, there's a dozen women, many with, well, mostly women, but, the Aquafit. There's so many health and just mental and social and physical health benefits to swimming. It's accessible to everyone, every age, every level of fitness. Its benefits. I consider it a Canadian essential life skill to be able to swim. And, those kids are having a blast. The swim club is expanding. They're getting, we need another lifeguard, but they're all volunteers and we all happen to get involved in swims. But I tell you, it is really exciting to see them learn to dive and all of that. And they're having fun. And, I just really think about that because I love Lillooet's slogan, guaranteed rugged. And the landscape certainly is. But many of the people here are not. Many of them I see as being very vulnerable. And this is built. It is here. The momentum is here. And I urge you again, it is your duty to find the funding to keep it open full-time on a regular basis.
Thank you, Ms. Weston. Is there anyone else that wish to come forward? Anyone virtually, Mr. Taylor?
If anybody is joining us on Teams who wishes to address council at this point for a period of no more than 2 minutes in length, please turn on your camera and your microphone now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. We'll move to item 3. Are there any late additions or deletions for the agenda?
Then, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, someone please move that the February 15th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted. Councillor Leach, second Councillor Weed. Call the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have 2 delegations. First one from the Lillooet Chamber of Commerce, Johannes Bordendorf.
Everyone, take this off. All right, good afternoon, councillors, staff. Today I wanted to officially introduce myself. My name is Johannes Bodendorfer, and I've just been hired as the full-time executive director of the Lillooet Chamber of Commerce. Board of Directors decided to hire me to strengthen and grow the Lillooet Chamber for the benefit of all the new and existing businesses in town. The chamber has been rather quiet in the last couple of years, but we have new projects, new funding, and a new renewed sense of purpose. Originally, I had a little presentation prepared for all of you, but then I took a look at the agenda and I realized it might be smarter if I just give a quick introduction of what we're about and what we hope to do. The Deputy Corporate Officer has also let me know that the Committee of the Whole meeting might be a more appropriate venue to talk about some of the details, and I'm happy to participate in that as well. So today, I'll just quickly outline what the Chamber is about, what our plans are, our hopes, our dreams, and how we might be able to help all of you in your hopes and your dreams. At the moment, our team includes myself as staff and a board of directors. Current directors are Deborah Neufeld, the accountant in town, Rolf de Bruin from Fort Barons, Andrew Kurbis from Community Futures, Mike Engelbrecht with Cowes Flats and Split Rock, as well as Sam Quinlan from Lillooet Brewing. Board's always looking for new people as well, in case anyone is interested. We've recently received significant funding, almost $70,000, to restart the Lillooet Chamber, our programs, and to support some of the businesses in town. With those funds, I've personally spent the last 3 to 4 weeks signing businesses up for a Shop Local campaign, sitting down with several community organizations to support their initiatives, as well as strengthening the chamber itself with a brand new website, business cards, and some other materials. I was told in the beginning it would be quite the challenge to engage with businesses here. It's been a very tough 2 years. But after 4 weeks, I have to wholeheartedly disagree. I've signed up over 40 businesses in less than 3 weeks. I spent $10,000 on gift cards alone, started or assisted almost a dozen community projects, some with the Hub, some with the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society, which I believe you will hear more about today, as well as created a new chamber with lots of work still ahead. You can find a new website, and soon we'll develop regular engagement opportunities as well with businesses and community members. To say it's been a success would be a huge understatement. Even though it's February, the response has been fantastic. Businesses in Lillooet are excited and excitable to strengthen this town and make it a great place to do business in. Can't wait for July. I think the chamber can be very successful, and Lillooet has huge potential. Businesses here are ready to excel at what they do best. Whether it is George from Rev It Up, Carmen from PharmaSafe, Jill and Christoph from Seed to Culture, Sandra and Randy from Little Green Nuggets, Kim from the Community Hub, or any of the other energetic businesses that I've met in the last couple of weeks. Lillooet is incredibly resilient and has a very strong business culture. And this is where all of you come in. Council plays an incredibly vital role in promoting, celebrating, and advocating for the businesses here. It is all of you as elected officials that can make or break a business idea, encourage or discourage a new business, determine the future of an existing business, and generally make life easier or harder for the businesses that we have. As the chamber, I would like to offer my help in that task. I see my role as advocating for the businesses in town and helping shape Lillooet as a business-friendly community. That doesn't always mean lower taxes, by the way, but it does mean simplifying and clarifying the rules of the game, so that you don't need an army of engineers to navigate the building code, a forestry degree to understand fire code, a journalism degree to keep up with announcements, an army of lawyers when everything falls apart, or $1 million in the bank account to navigate the endless municipal, regional, provincial, and federal bureaucracies all at the same time. A well-researched business plan, passion, and lots of support from the community is everything that you should need to start a business in town. So I want to offer the Chamber's help for to the district for your projects this year. If you could, whether you consider updating your zoning bylaws, changing municipal tax rates, building new infrastructure, or considering parking lots, the Lillooet Chamber has the ability to inform and engage Lillooet businesses. We have an active and growing network of businesses and intend to create a unified voice for all of them. When we work together, it gives us the ability to lower the temperature on important topics and find creative solutions to some of the problems that are nobody's fault. Also, it gives us stuff to talk about at the next election, which is coming. A collaboration between the Lillooet Chamber and the District of Lillooet is a natural pair. We help you in engaging with businesses, and you help us with creating a business-friendly community. I know all of you want that. In summary, my first 4 weeks working with the businesses here have been phenomenal. Lillooet businesses are engaged, and they want to be engaged. They're passionate about their business, and they're ready to be unleashed by all of you. You can be proud of the community you've built here. I see great things for us in the future if we work hard and if we work together. You can reach out to myself at the new chamber email, info@lillooetchamber.ca, or social media, or just by stopping me on the street. I go for chats with our members on a weekly basis. Yeah, I think we can create a united voice with a common vision, and I would like to ask for all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodenhofer. Would you be available for any questions or clarifications from council?
Absolutely.
All right. Any queries from council? No. Encouraging words. I thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay, the second delegation, Lillooet Agricultural and Food Society. It's a request for resolution of support for grant application to NBIT.
Thank you, Sarah. If you would please turn on your camera and your microphone at this point, the floor is yours. Sarah, I can see you, but
There she is.
your microphone still appears to not be connected. Okay, please try one more time. There, we've got you now. Thank you.
Oh, is it good? Okay. Okay, thank you. I am here to speak, as you said, about our applications to the Northern Development Initiative Trust for two different projects. The first one is for the Lillooet Grown Cookbook proposal. And I would like to note in our final application, there were some changes. The application that was included was a draft and there were some changes made. So we are requesting $9,500 from NDIT with $5,000 in support, in-kind support from the Hub, and $5,000 that were requested from the Chamber. Are there any questions about that application?
Just for a moment, any questions, clarification from council? No? None here, Sarah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so we're requesting, yeah, a resolution of support from the council for that application being put forward.
Sarah, I won't be getting into too much detail at that agenda item, so perhaps if you would like to give a little bit of background on the two projects that you're putting forward today.
Yeah, of course. So the cookbook is a Lillooet Grown cookbook. It's an idea that we've had for a little while, and we're partnering with the Hub this year to create a book of recipes and local art from Lillooet to promote both the Lillooet Grown brand as well as the Hub project and our project. It's something I'm really excited about. I think it'll be really great contribution to kind of local food knowledge, and we're going to run lots of food workshops from the Hub to create cookbooks. And I just see it as being a good way to get Lillooet grown food kind of out there. We can sell it in lots of different places, including the Hub, and so I'm excited for the project. And the second project is matching funding. This one we'll be applying for the next application of NDIT when it reopens. So it's every 4 months, it's quarterly. And so we'll be applying to match our funds that we received from the Canadian Economic Recovery and Infrastructure Program. We received $267,000 to build a cold storage facility. And we were approved to apply for matching funding for that. So we're planning to apply to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Economic Infrastructure Program to match that funding and put in processing facilities and kind of add on to what we originally applied for, which was mainly refrigeration and storage. And so with the matching funds, I'm hoping that we can turn what was originally purely storage into something that has processing facilities available as well. Any questions about either of those?
Sorry, you were muted for that. If you could please say that again.
Sorry, Sarah, seems to be pretty clear. No questions coming from council.
Thank you, Sarah. This item will be discussed at item 12.3 later on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 6, adoption of council meeting minutes. Someone moved that the February 8th, 2022 public hearing report be adopted as presented, and that the February 8th, 2022 special council meeting minutes be adopted as presented. Councillor Howe, second Councillor Hoppel. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. We move to rise and report. Council endorsement of 2022 SILGA resolution. Someone moved that the council endorse the SILGA resolutions attached to the report dated February 11th, 2022 by sending them to Southern Interior Local Government Association for consideration of inclusion at the 2022 Union of British Columbia Municipalities. Councillor Weed, second Councillor Howe. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. We'll move to correspondence. Anybody want in one of these pieces of correspondence removed for discussion? Seeing none, then I want somebody to move the correspondence included in the staff report dated February 10th, 2022 be received for information. Councillor Howe, second Councillor Hoppel. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. We'll move to item 11, reports and presentations of staff. DP 21-003, wildland fire hazard development permit for proposed seniors care facility at 211 Hillcrest Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. DP 21-003 is for a wildfire development permit. This is a technical development permit to ensure that the construction materials used follow fire smart practices, such as requiring appropriate fire resistance ratings for roof materials, ensuring that areas that could capture combustible materials are covered with non-combustible wire mesh to prevent the accumulation of such materials, fire-resistant exterior finishes such as hardy board and stucco, and fuel-reduced buffers provided around individual structures. This is a technical development permit and is non-discretionary. It is my hope that this will be one of the last wildfire development permits that I bring before you. As further down the agenda, this is one of the permit types that we are proposing be delegated to staff in the delegation of authority bylaw due to its non-discretionary nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from staff, from council and to staff? Someone please move that the wildland fire hazard development permit DP 21-003 for the proposed seniors care facility development at 211 Hillcrest Road, legally described as Lot 2, Plan KAP 38298, District Lot 1116 and 1588, Land District 27, be issued. Councillor Weeb, second Councillor Howe. Any further discussion? There none, call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 11.2, 2022 zoning bylaw project charter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In order to enact Council's strategic priority of implementing prescriptive and flexible zoning in response to the recently adopted Lillooet 2040 official community plan, I present for you the first iteration of the zoning bylaw project charter. The project charter is intended to keep all parties on the same page when it comes to the management and successful completion of a task, while also ensuring that every party involved is aware of what their commitment will be to the project in ensuring that the project remains within the intended scope, as well as helping external stakeholders understand what the purpose and end result should be. To that end, the scope of this project is as follows. The deliverables include a new zoning bylaw and the creation of an ongoing scheduled zoning bylaw amendment program to ensure that changes to the bylaw are regulated and expected rather than haphazard and reactionary. Outcomes include improved communication of information pertaining to the bylaw. Community values is defined in the OCP, reflected in the regulation. An easier application of bylaw standards. Some of our current regulations are a little obtuse and often conflict with other regulations elsewhere in the bylaw. What is not in scope in this project is the revision of the official community plan development permit guidelines, neighborhood-specific development and zoning regulations such as the downtown plan, which will be considered as part of the 2023 work plan, creation of a sustainability checklist or development of OCP sustainability policies, or a review of the community amenity contribution policy. However, provisions for CACs will be included in the bylaw with the policy being considered as part of a later project. Zoning provisions. Zoning provides numerous benefits to the community. The zoning bylaw can minimize conflicting land uses, help prevent overcrowding and unsightliness of properties, ensure a degree of certainty for property owners and potential purchasers of land, require development to meet minimum standards, offer residents an opportunity to be involved in land use decisions, and can be enforced in the event of non-compliance. In developing this charter, the following assumptions have been made. that council is receptive to improving the clarity of regulation and desires engaging the community in discussions as a means of being responsive to community concerns. The project deliverables are to be developed in-house by staff, and current staffing levels allow development application activity to continue while permitting staff time to dedicate to this project. Identified risks and constraints to this project include the approach of the 2022 general local election, which could cause a change in council direction, and that the project lead is also the chief election officer. The timelines presented on page 3 and 4 of this document are aspirational, and while we are currently on track, it is very likely that these timelines will be amended as the project proceeds. The costs on page 4 reflect the budget of $25,000, with $15,000 budgeted for a comprehensive legal review of the document prior to second reading, $5,000 for graphic design, $2,000 for various advertising, and $1,000 for public consultation meetings, and we have $2,000 as contingency. And as always, we will strive to not spend the entire amount. Stakeholders in the project are the Director of Corporate Development Services, serving as project lead, and the drafter of the bylaw, accounting for approximately 70% of the staff time required, followed by the Development Services team, which is the building official and the planning technician, making up a combined 22.5% of staff time. The Directors of Public Works and Utilities, Director of Protective Services, and Chief Administrative Officer will also play roles in the review as subject matter experts on those items outside of the purview of Development Services. Staff are presenting this project charter today as information and are prepared to answer any questions you may have about the process, but please note that the public engagement strategy has not been determined yet, as we are still in the preliminary research and drafting stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions, council? Councilor Hoffel?
Through the mayor, Mr. Taylor, I question why we have two things. One, an oil water separator for all zoning. And I just ask that you consider this while you're revamping this or implementing any new or taking away any ideas. But the oil water separator, it seems like, I don't think we have one in town anywhere. I'm not sure where it came from. And constantly new businesses are coming forward to say, can we make a variance to get rid of this? And like I said, I don't see why we have one. And the other one is to consider removing the pavement from the industrial zoning sections. At least let's have a conversation about that, because again, you know, businesses are coming with a variance, and I think by the BC code, they already have to have a wheelchair accessible parking spot from their property to the front door. So again, especially in industrial zoning areas, I don't know why we're adding this huge expense to these new business projects. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, to touch on that, staff are going to be going through all of the variances that were issued since 2018 when this came out, and if we are noticing any patterns coming out where things are continuously being applied for variances, such as the oil water separator and the height of accessory buildings on large lots on the hot farm to be able to store an RV, we're going to be bringing those items forward to ask if the council wants to reduce or eliminate or keep those provisions.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? No, it's a necessary document. I have one question, Mr. Taylor. On our milestones, are we reaching the due dates so far?
At this time, we're exceeding the due dates, but please don't expect that to become a pattern.
I thank you. Exceeding here. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay, will someone please move that the 2022 zoning bylaw project charter attached staff report dated February 10th, 2022 be received for information? Councillor Weed, second Councillor Leach. Any further questions, discussion? Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Carried, and thank you. Item 11.3, industrial park well water license. Mr. Darling, I assume?
Yeah, I'll leave it to Don Durden.
Can you hear me?
We do.
Can't see me though, I guess, which is good news.
There we are.
Mr. Mayor and Council, good to see you again. This report is about licensing of the wells over on in the industrial park. The Water Sustainability Act changed in 2016, and in 2017 they set a mandate that if you didn't license a well by March 1st of 2022, that you would lose your priority to that water. We did a review with the staff, the public works foreman, and we also had a Agua Consulting Inc. help us in the review. And there are 3 wells that the district owns on the land over there. One is registered, which is the industrial park well. And with the short time frame, we didn't feel it was feasible to go after the other 2. Plus, there's concerns about whether they are going to be needed in the future or not. We are not abandoning those wells at this point in time, but because of the short time frame, we're trying to license the industrial park well to sustain our priority over the water rights on that well. We will be coming back with a report to council on the other 2 wells once we determine there's an arsenic issue on all 3 wells over in the industrial park. There's also an issue with the Bridgestone well, which is the one near the Fraser River, whether it could, be flooded if the Fraser River rises, and what kind of issues that would, cause. Also, if you wanted to retain the Bridgestone well, we'd have to put all the electronics and everything up on the hill so that they wouldn't be susceptible to flooding. So an additional report will be coming forward to look at all 3 wells, how best to service the area and how we should move forward. But right now we're just trying to secure the licensing on the industrial park well.
Thank you, Mr. Darling. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor Weed?
Through the mayor, nice to see you, Don. Retirement looks good on you. You've been retired for so long. When you say that the compliance changed in 2016 and that they had to be licensed by March of 2022, excuse me, and we're doing that for the industrial park well, but not the other 2, is that?
Yeah, the reason behind that is the other 2, the only well that is registered, there's registering and there's licensing. And registering just means that you've notified the province that there's a well there, this is the location, and there's no real information on it. And to license a well, it has to be registered and then licensed. And because of the short time frame, even though this has been ongoing for quite a while, because of the short time frame we have now, we do not have the time to register and license. If you do register and license, then there would be a responsibility by the district to treat those other 2 wells or deal with them in some form. And you also have to pay for the water used from those wells previously. So it was felt that we'd be better off, because there is no historic record of use on those wells, that we're better off just to deal with them in the future. And I'm not talking the long future. I realize there's a interest by council to deal with it as soon as possible. But at this point in time, we didn't want to gamble and lose the industrial park well. The other 2 wells will follow through as soon as possible.
Okay, so if I can ask another question. So is the Bridgeside well and the CRC CRC well registered or they're not registered?
They're not registered and they're not licensed. The only one that was registered is the industrial park well, but it was not licensed. So we are moving forward to get it licensed.
Okay, thank you. Amazes me the things that fall through the cracks, that they've never been registered again. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could say, Mr. Darling, obviously all is not lost. Those wells are there. They're fairly shallow, I would suspect, based on how close it is to the river. And I would assume that we would be utilizing our updated master water plan to be able to deal with what staff wants to see us do in that particular area, East Lillooet. So I'm comforted by the fact that you said the wells are okay. I just sort of feel from a technical point of view, if ever they are to be used, we probably want to drill newer and bigger ones right beside it. That aquifer is a pretty substantial one. Sorry, go ahead.
One of the conditions or one of the concerns about the two wells, the Bridgeside and the CRC well, are they are a long distance from the industrial park well. And so there may be an opportunity to put in a well closer to the industrial park well to create redundancy there rather than trying to create redundancy from a well that is at a significant distance. So all that'll be looked at, you know, once we get the next report through and if we get approval to proceed.
Well done, thanks. Any further questions, comments from council? Okay. I would like someone to move that staff prepare and submit a water license application to the Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development for the industrial park well, and that the interim capital project administrator is authorized to submit this application to the Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, Rural Development on behalf of the District of Lillooet. Councillor Weed, second Councillor Howe. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, and thank you. We'll move on to item 12, bylaws and resolutions. 12.1, ICIP 2022 grant application for wastewater treatment plant. You again, Mr. Darling.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this just came, we realized just after I was retained again that there is an opportunity for grant funding, and the needs assessment for the water or wastewater treatment plant was on the books when I was retained the last time with Lillooet. And we thought there was an opportunity here to try to get some funding to improve some deficiencies that are in the plant. I don't know if you want me to go through all the deficiencies, but there are a significant amount. The overall price of the deficiencies is $1.8 million. Yeah, almost $1.9 million. The district would be responsible to pay for 26 2/3 of that, so their share would be $504,330. And we think it's an opportunity. We're not sure if we'll succeed or not, but the deadline for this grant application is February the 23rd. So we have to move on it very quickly. In fact, the grant date was extended. It was January. I'm not sure when in January, but it was January, but they extended it to February the 23rd. So we were able to make the application. So we're hoping to get funding for the wastewater treatment plant and look after some valuable upgrades that need addressing.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Weed.
Through the mayor, I'm just curious as to if you can give me a time frame to the best of your abilities, because I know you haven't been here for the duration of the wastewater treatment plant, but how long has this needed upgrades or been on the books, so to speak?
When I was last retained by the district, which I, going by memory, but I think was probably 2019, we looked at the needs assessment. I believe it wasn't actually carried out until 2021 or 2020, and then we got the results of that, but there was always concerns by staff, and the assessment was just never carried out for whatever reasons, turnover of directors or whatever. And so now that it's finally done, you know, I think it's an ongoing problem. Like there has to be money spent on operation and maintenance on an ongoing basis. And if you just let it lag, it just gets to cost more money. And this is an opportunity where we're hoping we can get the funds to kind of do a catch up and make the plant reliable again.
Okay, thank you. Like I say, it just amazes me over the years of what got neglected along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weed. Any other questions, comments, clarification from council? Okay, bear with me here. I got a mouthful in front of me. So I need someone to move that staff prepare and submit a grant application under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality Program for the Lillooet Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrade, and that the district allocate $504,330 out of the Sewer Reserve Fund to pay for the district's share of the Lillooet Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades. And further, that the interim capital project administrator is authorized to submit the application to the Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality for the Lillooet Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades on behalf of the District of Lillooet. Who moves? Councillor Leach, second Councillor Weed. Any further discussion? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, and thank you, Mr. Darling.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move to item 12.2, the 2022 UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Emergency Operations Center and Training Application. I say Mr. Oiki.
Thank you, Mr. Oakley. We have you.
Hello.
There he is.
Hi there. Thank you. Yeah, so we're putting in an application through your mayor. Sorry, we're putting in an application to further support the Emergency Operations Center. I'm looking to put in for upgrades and some new equipment and to do some more tabletop exercise. So this goes along with the 3 previous years of applications that we put in. And we are currently in the midst of last year's funding, and we are confident we'll have it done by this May. And this is to take hold on next year's uptake here. So yeah, it's going well. We're getting good reception throughout the communities and the collaboration we're having with the First Nations communities. So we're very excited and looking forward to hopefully being successful in this next application to further our education and our resources within the District of Lillooet's area. So if there's any questions, I would take them for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Oiki. Any questions, comments from council? I think it's pretty straightforward. Somebody please move that the application to the Union of BC Municipalities Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for the Emergency Operations Center and Training Fund be supported. Councillor Howe, second Councillor Hochul. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Move to item 12.3, supporting resolutions for the Lillooet Agricultural and Food Society grant application. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Presented here are 2 resolutions of support for grant applications to the Northern Development Initiative Trust from the Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society. These are reflective of the delegation made earlier this evening. I will draw attention to number 2 regarding the agricultural storage facility. In supporting this application, please note that it does not mean that council is bound to approve any land use or regulatory change that may present themselves during LAFS's design of this project. Staff, however, recommend that both resolutions of support be carried to allow LAFS to obtain the funds to do any background research required to determine the feasibility of the storage facility project. Staff also did a thorough and exhaustive policy review and have no exception with the conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions, comments from council? No? Have been done. We'll do two separate resolutions, please. Somebody moved that the District of Lillooet supports the application Northern Development Initiative Trust submitted by the Lillooet Agricultural and Food Society in partnership with the Lillooet Community Connect Innovation Hub for the Lillooet Grow and Cookbook Project. Councillor Hoffel, second Councillor Leach. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Carry. Item 2, someone moved that the District of Lillooet supports the application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Economic Infrastructure Grant Program to be submitted by the Lillooet Agricultural, Cultural and Food Society to enhance the agricultural storage facility project. Councillor Leach, second Councillor Weeb. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Carry. Thank you. Item 12.4, financial plan and utility rates bylaw. Ms. LaRue?
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor. First, I'd just like to address the concerns that we've heard tonight and over recent days regarding funding for the pool. A 10-month pool opening is in the 5-year financial plan. The funding for that 10-month opening, however, seems to be a source of some frustration and confusion among members of the community and some members of council. In the current 5-year financial plan, this 10-month opening is budgeted as being funded through donations, as it was in last year's budget. This is already in place for this year, for 2022, with the $200,000 that SWIMS fundraised for this purpose. Moving forward, the funding source in future years is certainly up to council. There's many different options: raising municipal property taxes by about 8.9%, implementing a parcel tax, which would be approximately between $160 and $200 per residential property, community or regional donations, or even grant funding. And of course, these are all options that staff will be considering moving forward. These discussions will likely start taking place in late summer of this year, so that we have a plan in place moving forward for a sustainable method of keeping the extended pool opening if council so desires. Having said that, the purpose of this report is to request the first 3 readings of the financial plan and utility rate bylaws. The financial plan, which was endorsed by the Committee of the Whole on February 2nd, includes a 3.5% increase in property tax revenue and a 3% increase in utility rates. Also to note, staff are requesting an amendment to the utility bylaws to include a clause that the rates will be increased by inflation each year. This does not mean that the rate changes can't be revisited, but it will make it more efficient for staff knowing ahead of time when we're developing the budgets, as well as working with our property owners when they are setting up for their prepayments, or working with the lawyers when they're making adjustments for property sales and such, especially near the end and beginning of each year when we don't know exactly what the rates are going to be. Also, it is part of our financial plan policy that we will aim to increase property tax and utility rates by the rate of inflation each year. So having said that, we are recommending that the financial plan and utility rate bylaws be given first 3 readings by council and forwarded to the next meeting for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue. To Councillor Weed.
Through the mayor, I don't know if this is the time to ask this or not, so if it's not, somebody can put the big hook out and drag me off into the hallway. You always do a great job, Joni. I'm just curious as to the discussion about the pool. And I get the angst between SWIMS and the community and the recreation center and council and staff and all of the above. Has there ever had to be that large an increase in property tax or a, what's the 160 to 200,
Parcel tax.
The parcel tax or regional donations or grant funding to support any other infrastructure part of this recreation center? Like, do we do that for the arena? Do we, I'm just curious, and it might not be a question you can answer, and if not, maybe somebody could get back to me on a later date. I'm just curious as to why that would be laid out for the pool, but nothing else.
Certainly through the mayor, I can try and answer. So speaking specifically to the arena actually last 5 year had an average surplus each year of $31,400. So the taxpayers aren't subsidizing the operation of the arena. This is only speaking to operational expenses, so it's salaries and wages, it's insurance, it's regular repair and maintenance, things like that. It's not speaking to any capital projects, so painting the pool or in comparison, the Zamboni for the arena, that's a capital project. Most of those are typically funded through our own reserves, or if we're lucky enough to get grant funding for them. In my time here, I only recall the first year, which was 2015, I believe, don't quote me, that there was talk of I'm not even sure. I think it was up to a 16% tax increase. Of course, that didn't go through. That's the only time that I can recall. But again, that's just in my time here.
Okay, so I know that we are for 2022 basing on the fundraising and the amount of monies that came in from SWIM, so I get that. So is it possible, and I know I'm asking you to rub your little genie lamp there because I can see it in the background. Is it possible that the pool somehow could come out with a surplus the way the arena does? I mean, with the amount of use that we're getting here? If it's the operational funds that need to be done by a parcel tax or a tax increase by that great amount?
I'm not sure that I'm the best person to answer that. Maybe Bain might be a better person as far as whether the pool has enough users and whether those user fees are high enough to translate into a surplus for the pool. I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that.
May I interject?
Yeah.
We might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Right.
So let me take this forward and see what everybody thinks. We've got enough money to do this year based on it, which gives us time for planning for the following years. I can remind council and staff, obviously, we have an aggressive strategic plan. And in that, we've got a number of initiatives going forward already, 2 that I know that would impact the future. Mm-hmm. And the pool plays a significant, this rec center is coming to end of life, and we're working diligently to look at a study and funding in order to upgrade the facility, because I'm personally in agreement in terms of the necessity of a facility like that for the future of our community. So as much as we haven't been very vocal about it, I don't know if we're allowed to go public until certain things reach a point, but a lot of effort, energy, and funding is underway in order for us to be able to upgrade this facility, as well as look at the potential of a funding source for continuing on. So in other words, staff and council is working diligently on working future plans that aren't going to saddle, poor old SWIM. So we need to work together and be a bit more overt in terms of our communication. So if we're safe for this year, let's leave it at that. And staff and will come together to us in terms of various options, of which some of them are going to happen 2-3 years down the road. So I think there's positive things that are going to happen.
Was that my vote?
That was your vote. So, Councillor Hoffel.
Well, through the mayor, I do agree with you, and I like to see the pool. I mean, everybody wants to have the pool in town. It's a no-brainer. I do worry about the parcel tax and increased taxes of 8.9%. I think that's a huge hike. And I would like to see this go to a referendum. This is an election
If I
year.
can interject again, remember what I said. This is, no decisions needed, is necessary now. We have a whole year to put together and staff have to come with options, of which one of them may be that, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not the be all and the end all. There's plenty of different ways to look at it, so let's not.
That's right, but I still think that even if it is an election year, and I think even we need to talk about that, because I think putting on a referendum like that extra couple of questions onto an election ballot, I think that there's a cost to that. And I think that we need to put it out there because sure, that'd be great if we could get all sorts of funding and have the whole rec center redone, but we don't know that. And in 2 years, that might not be an option and we might have to go. So I'm just saying, let's put it out to everybody.
I disagree. I think a referendum would be the worst thing that we could do. We've got a scenario now in terms of COVID, in terms of economic recoveries. This is the time in which we should be able to achieve federal funding and provincial funding. I don't want to scare the heck out of our residents in terms of, hey, this is what you're looking at when we don't have a definitive plan for it. I want to hear from others. That's just my opinion on your thing.
Okay, can I ask that definitive plan, will that also be, are we going to continue to have a pool within this rec center? Are we going to build an outdoor pool? Because all those things have been on the table as well, right? So, I mean, before we sink millions of dollars into a pool, we need to figure out what is the longevity and the.
But we've got a whole year. We don't need to make the decision right now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I have one more question that's not related to the pool, but you know, I think I got the hook there too, but whatever.
You're resisting my hook. That's right.
I am resisting your hook. So through the mayor, to Joni, you mentioned the future tax increase will be put on the financial budget before we get it. And just to confirm, you're saying that it would be the rate of increase, like what would be that rate of increase? Just the cost of living or?
Sorry, through the mayor. So I'm suggesting that go into the utility rate bylaws. As you know, council gets together like this every year and hashes out the tax rate bylaw, or sorry, the tax rate revenue in particular. We also do touch on utility rates as well. I'm just suggesting that the same clause that's in our financial plan policy be added to our bylaws so that staff have a little, we're a little more prepared come the beginning of the year prior to actually calculating the utilities when we get a lot of questions from our residents preparing for prepayments and for property sales.
Okay, so it's just the utility bylaw. Okay, so I'm okay with that because, you know, I'm just going to say I still think that 3.5% is a big increase, and I know the cost of living only goes up maybe 2.75, so we're only getting 0.75. But, you know, a lot of people out there don't get a raise every year of 3.5%. And it again, the cumulative effect is hard on some people.
Thank you. You're campaigning. Thank you.
I'm not campaigning. I say it every year when it comes to the financials. Every year we talk about the tax increase. Yeah. But I am a taxpayer first.
No, you're a council person and a taxpayer. Thank you.
First and last.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Councilor Lee.
I'm going to bring it back to the pool for a second. Just because I have some clarity questions that I hope can help ease not only my mind, but maybe Swim's as well. So we have enough funding for out of the donations plus the $20,000 for this year's operating budget. So does that keep the pool open until the end of December?
Ms. LaRue, can you answer that, please?
I'm sorry, again, this would be a Bain. I'm not involved in the day-to-day. I don't honestly even know the opening schedule.
Okay. All I can say to that is that there's some variables here that are a little difficult to predict. The plan is that we would operate the pool until the end of June, close for 2 months for maintenance, and then reopen in September and go until December. And I think the funding that has been allocated in the budget is adequate to do that, to fulfill that plan. The problem we may have is we have 2 big capital projects that we're looking at for this year. One is painting the pool, and the other one is to replace the sand filter and the piping in the boiler room. I've been doing quite a bit of work trying to get a handle on what kind of a timeline we'll have for contractors and for equipment for each of those projects. And we may run into some difficulty in trying to secure the contractors and the equipment during that 2-month period that we had originally planned. So we'll have to look at, there's no reason to think that we are going to have to be closed for a period longer than 2 months to accomplish that, but whether those 2 months will be the June, the July and August is going to depend on a number of variables. And the other, another alternative might be these projects. There's a lot of things happening with COVID, with problems with delivery of equipment right now. It might be smarter to actually move one or both. Well, probably just the sand filter project might be smarter to do it in 2023 than 2022, if everything else being equal, just in order to make the schedule for pool be more predictable.
So there's 2 things. So the reason I'm asking, because one of SWIM's main concerns, because it was so hard to get lifeguards, is that if we close, we lose lifeguards that we have, and then we're back at square one. So that's the one issue that I know is a real sticking point. And just to what you had just explained, Mr. Gare, and this could be a personal opinion, and I know that this, the typical summer closing is historical, and there was reasons 20 years ago as to why it should be closed during the summer. We live in the hottest place, or one of the hottest places in British Columbia. We should not have the pool closed during the summer. I know the argument has been that you know, students are out and families go on vacation, but to be quite honest, you add in the pandemic, families are not leaving the community. They're looking for activities for their children to do that are safe and fun and fill their day. I know this is operational and it's totally outside of my position here, but I really think any project that is planned for the pool, if we're going to be closing, should be pushed at least back to September. If that is the case, I just think we're missing a huge opportunity to get more bodies in that pool during July and August. That being said, just so SWIMS knows, because I know I had a conversation with some of them this past week, I had polled each councillor individually about potentially talking about a parcel tax. And I can tell you right now, I don't have the support for it, so I'm not bringing it forward. But I do commit to continue working and continue pushing for this, because I do believe the asset is underutilized and it does not have the support it really needs. So I'm sorry that I'm not bringing it to those that I need to talk to about this, but yeah, that's just where it's done. And then I will take the hook and we can move on.
Any further questions, comments from council? Councillor Halko? You're good?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Weed?
I'm great.
Councillor Lee? Councillor Howell? Good. These are significant issues and it's good to discuss them. All right, I've got 5 resolutions here. I'm going to do them one at a time. Someone moved that financial plan bylaw number 2022-004 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. Councillor Weed, Councillor Howell second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Number 2, someone move please that water connections and regulation bylaw number 68-1997 amendment bylaw number 2022-005 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. Councillor Weed, second. Councillor Howell. Any further discussion? Councillor Howell?
I do have a question for staff through the mayor. When we're looking at commercial sale of water, what is a per filter system? That's what we're charging for. Like we're charging for 2 separate things, per filter system and a plus per employee. I don't know what this is for.
I don't know that off the top of my head. Which page are you on?
Oh, I didn't write the page down.
We can look that in your US.
Sorry, through the mayor, could you just point me where you're looking? It could just be a typo.
Oh, I don't think so. Well, I mean, perhaps. Hold on here. Okay, give me a moment. I'll dig it up. I did it digitally, so it would have been shipped on the laptop. It would have been a lot
Joanne, it's on
easier.
page 120 of 238 of the agenda, item 12.4.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I believe that this is referring to private water sales.
Right.
Out of a commercial establishment, that anyone who can take those large jugs of water and get them filled up. So her filter system is, I assume, is going to be per distribution system.
Okay. Thank you.
Good with that, Councillor Hall? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 3, that water connections and regulations bylaw number 428, 1984, amendment bylaw number 2022-006 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. Who moves? Councillor Howe, second. Councillor Leach. Any questions? Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Item 4, someone move that sewer connections and regulations bylaw number 430, 1984, amendment bylaw number 2022-007 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. Councillor Leach, second. Councillor Weed. Any questions? Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Carried. And the last one, item 5, that someone move that garbage collection and regulations bylaw number 296-2007, amendment bylaw number 2022-008 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time. Councillor Weed, second. Councillor Howe. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll move to item 12.5, development procedure bylaw number 2022-003 and delegation of authority bylaw number 2022-002. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one's a bit of a doozy, and the long hook doesn't work on me. So buckle up. Development approval process improvements have been the goal of every local government since we became the responsibility for development approval. There needs to be a balance of speed and efficiency, along with ensuring that development is done in a smart and correct way. In 2019, the provincial government released the Development Approvals Process Review, or DAPR, which identified key guiding principles for development approvals, which include achieved outcomes in the public interest, certainty, transparent access to information, collaborative, flexible, timely, and balanced. Our processes for planning and land use must be flexible in a part to allow for their application to a wide range of unique circumstances. However, they must also be consistent and fair. Some challenges identified through the DAPR process as being province-wide issues are incomplete or poor quality submissions by proponents, increased complexity of requirements, inconsistent development permit guidelines, and contradictory advice from different municipal departments. To this end, staff are presenting 2 bylaws to attempt to clarify and in certain instances expedite approval processes. The first proposal is Development Procedure Bylaw 2022-003. The current Development Procedure Bylaw does not give staff or applicants a clear idea of what is expected in the time between application and council approval. The schedules attached to and forming part of the bylaw clearly lay out a step-by-step process for each application type. Not only is this accessible for staff, but it can be given to applicants so that they can be fully aware of the process without having to sift through the entire bylaw. Some of the key changes of the current bylaw to the new bylaw include the scope of the proposed bylaw has been extended to properly include development permits and development variance permits, as well as the inclusion of application types such as temporary use permits, agricultural land reserve applications, floodplain exemptions, liquor and cannabis regulation branch applications, strata title conversions, and subdivision. It is important to have these clearly defined as well in times of staff changeover. There can be nothing more flustering for a developer than a new body coming into the office and completely changing the application review process, as occurred approximately 2 years ago. The general provisions section includes procedures and policies on the process of requiring development approval information in relation to Part 14, Division 6 of the Local Government Act. Development approval information are those items that are not normally part of an application, but rather those items that require further study to fully understand the impact of the development on a district, including traffic studies, geotechnical studies, stormwater management studies, water modeling, and sewer modeling. A section clearly defining when an application has lapsed has been included so that the district doesn't continue to have stagnant applications on the books. We are also proposing to extend the reapplication period from 6 months to 12 months for an application that's been previously denied by council. However, there is a method by which to appeal this timeline to council. This bylaw does not include any application fees, as those have already been consolidated into the fees and charges bylaw. However, this bylaw does speak to the timing and amount of refunds at various stages of the application process to more accurately reflect the costs at those stages. Finally, you may notice that the Board of Variance application process has not been included in part of this bylaw, and that is not an oversight and will be considered as part of a separate bylaw. Before I move on to the delegation of authority bylaw, I should probably pause for some questions on this bylaw.
Any questions, comments from council? No. Carry on, Mr. Taylor, thank you.
Thank you. Delegation of authority bylaw number 2022-002. In the DAPR report, the delegation of authority was identified as an opportunity for expedited approvals. The province provides authority to local governments for development approval tools under the Local Government Act and the Building Act. The legislation specifies what decisions must be made by council and which decisions may be delegated to staff. Some of these include development permits, temporary use permits, and tree cutting permits, which we don't have, The only development approvals staff are recommending be delegated at this time are development permits. It should be noted that in response to the DAPR report, the province is looking to allow for minor variances to also be able to be delegated to staff. However, in the true form of the province, they are not defining what minor means, and I'm not expecting that they will actually take responsibility for that definition, and we'll leave it up to each council to determine what minor is. The DAPR report identified that some types of approvals by elected officials can prolong overall time frames, potentially impacting project costs, especially if an application is not ready for a scheduled council meeting and must wait an additional month. DAPR found that there was significant interest in and high importance placed on increasing opportunities for local governments to delegate approval decisions to staff. This suggestion was provided in the context that greater emphasis should be placed on the development of area plans and pre-zoning that have already been subject to public input. The approval of applications that align with these plans should then be delegated to staff, helping to make the approval process more efficient while maintaining its effectiveness. In discussing the actual authority that staff are recommending be delegated, explicitly delegating authority to the mayor or acting mayor and any one of the CAO, CFO, or CO to execute all agreements relating to contracts awarded by the district. This is currently done by resolution every time, and this is really just a word-saving delegation. This is not authorizing any one of the group listed above to enter into agreements or contracts independent of council approval, only to finally execute those agreements. Schedule 1 of the bylaw designates the following to the Chief Administrative Officer, executing the following documents on behalf of the district. Section 219 covenants, statutory rights of way and easements, new licenses to occupy and renewals of licenses to occupy. For instance, if there's an event in Downton Park, the CAO could approve vendors to occupy the lands without a council resolution. Renewals of leases, mutual aid agreements, and land tenures, provided there are no substantive changes, an example of that being the Lillooet Weather Station. And contracts to sell goods or services in accordance with rates determined in the approved financial plan or other bylaws. Schedule 2 of the bylaw designates the following to the Director of Development Services with the approval of the CAO. Execution of covenants, statutory rights of way, and easements under the Land Title Act. Technical development permits, which are not discretionary, which currently include watercourse development permit and wildland fire development permits. Minor Main Street development permits, such as changing of a paint color that would not affect the former character of a building. The hub and the old flower shop, staff would likely have still brought forward as those primary colors are not considered in the development permit area guidelines. However, we will be working on a policy for your consideration around exactly what minor permits you will be comfortable delegating. Further, any amendments to...
Can I interrupt to ask
Please.
a question right
Sure,
there? Sorry, through the mayor. So when you're talking about the painting of a building, so there is a general aesthetic code that we have currently, right?
That's correct.
But we also have purple houses, pink houses, blue legions, and you know, which I love, by the way. But so, are you saying that they did not go through the normal certification to have those colors put in, and that they will have to, or what effect would that have on a new building that wanted to paint it this color?
Mr. Mayor, any commercial building in the downtown development permit area will require a development permit anyways, as well as any existing building in the downtown development permit area that wishes to change its former character. So painting the hub was a taupey color and now it's a bright orange. That did come to council. They explained why they thought that was appropriate. Council issued the development permit. As far as the purple and pink houses, we have no authority over that. People can paint their houses whatever color they want, and that's fine.
I do love them.
Sorry to bring this
They're
up.
very
Yeah,
characteristic.
the legislation
colors.
explicitly says that we cannot regulate the form and character of residential unless it's intensive residential, like an apartment building or a very large subdivision. Where was I? As for the existing structures, like the Legion,
Yes.
they're fine unless they go to change something. So what staff are recommending with this section is that if somebody brings in a development permit application and it's minor enough with just a fresh coat of paint that meets the current design guidelines, that council will delegate the approval of that to staff, because council cannot deny a development permit application that meets the guidelines. That's not discretionary. However, if somebody is looking to exceed the development permit guidelines, like the hub and like the old flower shop did, that can come to council, and council may issue the permit at their pleasure.
Okay, I understand. I understand. Wow, that's great. Thanks.
Good, Councilor?
Yes.
Yeah, Councilor Leach, go ahead.
Just to add on to that, because it just reminded me of something. So years ago, and Councilor Hopwell and maybe Councilor Reid would remember this, would this include buildings such as the rec center? Because I remember there being quite an uproar when this building went from beige to blue and purple or whatever.
Purple and pink.
Generally, the district is exempt from its own. However,
Why does not surprise me?
however, Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
Shocking.
the rec center is also not within the appropriate zone in the development permit area to be subject to that regardless.
Just a quick clarification purposes. Thank you.
okay, carry on, Mr. Taylor.
The minor Main Street development permits will also, and I promise, have no effect on the swimming pool. Further, any amendments to, where was that? Yes. Further, any amendments on form and character development permits that are required due to technical considerations of the BC Building Code, Fire Code, or other life safety or municipal services are proposed to be delegated. This has been done by resolution with the Wild Rose development and the Jones Market development. What that means is the initial development permit will come before council with their form and character provisions. If any small alterations are needed that might affect the fascia or the form of the building in order to meet these technical requirements, staff are recommending that that be delegated so long as it doesn't affect a variance that was issued by council. Finally, strata title conversions of dwelling units, which is generally subject to building code anyway and is more of a technical endeavor, is suggested to be delegated to staff, which will also include the approving officer for that one. Finally, there is in the bylaw the ability of any applicant to appeal the decision of a delegate directly to council, who may either uphold the decision of the delegate or replace it with a decision of their own. As part of these two bylaws, the current development application procedure bylaw number 195 of 2003 and subdivision procedure and fees bylaw number 60 1997 will both be repealed as amended in their entirety. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor. So, long story short, streamlining them. Any comments, questions from council for clarification? No? We good? Thank you. I want somebody to move that the development procedures bylaw number 2022-003 be introduced and read at first, second, and third time. And item 2, that delegation of authority bylaw number 2022-002 be introduced and read at first, second, and third time. Councillor Weed, second. Councillor Howe. Further discussion? There seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Carried. 12.6, 2022 local government election appointment of chief election officer and deputy chief election officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is asking council to appoint the election officials for the 2022 general local election. For the purpose of conducting an election, the local government must appoint both the chief election officer and a deputy chief election officer. These appointments must be made by resolution at an open meeting of council early in an election year. The chief election officer and deputy chief election officer are responsible for conducting a fair, open, and honest election. The CEO must also appoint additional election officials required to assist the presiding election officials. The chief election officer must make a continuous effort to live by the letter of the statutes while still appearing to be flexible and fair, and must be consistent in decision-making at all times. Mr. Mayor, staff are recommending that Kevin Taylor, Director of Corporate Development Services, be appointed as Chief Election Officer, and that Natircia Moyer, Accounting Clerk, be appointed Deputy Chief Election Officer for the 2022 general election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Sorry. Any comments, questions? Need somebody to move. That pursuant to Section 58 of the Local Government Act, Kevin Taylor, Director of Corporate Development Services, be appointed Chief Election Officer for conducting the 2022 general local election, with power to appoint other election officials as required for the administration and conduct of the 2022 general local election, and that Natircia Moyer be appointed Deputy Chief Election Officer for the 2022 general local election. Who moves? Councillor Hopeful, second Councillor Howe. Any further discussion? There be none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried, and thank you. Item 12.7, Associate Member Liability Insurance for Bylaw Enforcement Officer. Temporary contracted coverage.
It's a pretty straightforward one, very much the same situation as we've come to council for Don Darling and for Lee McIntosh. This is an individual who's working on behalf of the district, providing a service that would otherwise be done by staff. In order to extend liability insurance to a contractor who's acting in that capacity for us, it does require a resolution from the council. Financial impacts are not significant unless there's a claim in which it would potentially affect our claim status. But it is something that was negotiated as part of the contract with the same. So it's a yes or no. Do we want a bylaw enforcement officer? Almost what it's asking.
Thank you. Any queries, comments from council? Seeing none, someone please move that Samuel Sedal Jr., Bylaw Enforcement Officer, be added as an associate member to the District of Lillo's liability insurance policy with the Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia for the term of his consulting agreement being January 2022 to December 31st, 2022, or until such time as the agreement is terminated. Who moves? Councillor Hoffel, second Councillor Howe. Any further discussion? There be none, call the question. Those in favor? Okay, item 13.1, you have the work in progress in front of you. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor Weave?
No, I'm not complaining. Through the mayor, on page 235, there is a statement there about CN representative and the noise bylaw, et cetera, and Councillor Leach had sent me a little excerpt from something that happened in Kamloops and the costs. And maybe she could reiterate it for the rest of council, but I'm like, I don't even know why we're pursuing that or putting that on Mr. Leakey's to-do list.
I just speak to that well.
Either or, I just, yeah, it amazed me. And then when I saw it on there, I'm like, why are we wasting someone's valuable time that already has so much to do on their plate?
I've read that same article about Kamloops and the $1 million crossings, and it had that confirmed in a conference in Victoria back when we could actually meet in person before COVID. But yeah, the costs are in the millions. In order to reduce the whistles, you have to have alternate warning systems in the gate and so forth, and that cost falls on the municipality to cover. CN or CP, whatever the rail is that is through the municipality will help with, informing the regulations and so forth, but the costs are borne by the municipality. The notes that are not in this list, the internal staff notes, is that the recommendation that we'll be bringing forward to council is to scrap this resolution. I'm asking you to do so because the magnitude of costs is just incredible for a community of this size to bear. And of course, course, as we know, the volume of traffic at trains has decreased quite dramatically in the last 2 years. So unless that changes anytime soon, we don't think that this issue is really something pressing.
I don't think it's an issue that we can afford to spend $1 million on personally, whether the trains get more or less.
Councillor Leach.
Yeah, so I actually had to go back and read that article, thank you, Councillor Lee, because I couldn't remember what you were referring to, but yes, I did look it up, and in the article for Kamloops, it was for the Lawrence Street crossing, and just for the one crossing, it's Kamloops Council, or Kamloops staff presented to council that was $1.2 million plus the cost of acquiring any land to put the new light system and gates, and also having to fence a certain portion of the track to keep pedestrians or vehicles out. So in Lillooet's case, considering we have 3 major crossings, we're looking upwards of $5 million. So yeah, I agree with that. Mr. Nicker is saying it's not even a feasible, it's a timely source of staff, to be quite honest.
Good
Thank
point. Any other comments from council? Yes, Councillor Weir.
Sorry, through the mayor. I really wanted to say that getting this work in progress report is phenomenal. And I've heard a few people say, well, things aren't doing anything, but sure are top heavy in that office lately. And I don't think that the public realizes how much work the province has pushed down on us, meaning you as staff. And I think we have phenomenal staff, and just by what came forward here tonight with the wastewater plant and the bylaws and the zoning and this, that, and the other, I feel like 20 years went by where absolutely nothing was done, or it just got sidelined until next year or the year after, whether it was due to staffing or whatever. So I am very appreciative of the staff we have, and I would definitely defend what we have in our district office now, just by the work that is getting done, because probably 80% of it has been backlogged 18 to 20 years. So thank you. And no, I wasn't campaigning there either.
I was about to say that, and you already broke my hook, but when you're talking about top heavy at the district office, I hope you're not alluding to the weight of the mayor.
No, I hear it all the time, that, you know, years ago, you could run it with, well, we had a CAO and Kathy Young, and you know what? They didn't have near the stuff delegated by the province to the small municipalities that they do now. And I think it's important that people know that.
Yep. We have to communicate. Thank you. Any other comments from council? Hearing none, will somebody move that the work in progress as of February 11th, 2022 be received for information? Councillor Leach, second. Councillor Howe. No further comments? Call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move to report from the mayor. In summary, from January 18th to February 15th, I had multiple meetings, works, and phone calls on development of strategic plan to address healthcare in Lillooet for pending meetings. I'm trying very hard with the Ministry of Health. The other item is the same period. I had meetings and strategies for mental well-being and crime concerns, numerous throughout those 2 weeks. That's it for me. Councillor Popo.
I was mostly just general meetings too, regular council meetings, public hearings. I had a historical society meeting January 27th, and we're still trying to get some help there to figure out what we're going to do in the future. Still looking for some members. We're still looking towards what we're going to do with the visitor center. So a lot going on there. February 2nd, we had the finance meeting. February 8th, the special meeting, the public hearing, the committee of the whole. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Taylor and Mr. Deniger for all their help this past weekend with the emails back and forth about clarification on this agenda. Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howe?
Okay, so outside of all the meetings, I was also a participant January 20th, the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Welcome, Johannes. Very excited to have you on board. This is so exciting. February 11th, I was in a call with our MP Brad Biss, where we discussed mandates, which you all now know the Conservative stance on those. And we also discussed actually Bill C-11, so something worth looking at if you're not completely familiar with that bill. Throw in Bill C-10 as well. Might be something. We also in that meeting discussed policy around more balanced reporting. And we were just about to get into a discussion around hospitals and availability of staffing, proper staffing. So I think there's going to be more conversations to come that'll be of interest. And that is me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Leach?
I don't have a super lot to report other than outside of the regular meetings, other than both the Marizak Heritage House and the Library Association had and are currently having their AGMs today. I did follow up with Ian from IH on the interview that I had mentioned at the last meeting, and he did confirm that he was going to look at it, and so I just thought that was not promising, but I felt good that Kurt got a response right away. He didn't just slough it off. I have, so I would actually like everybody to, although the announcement's not formally made, it is coming to mark May 7th in their calendars, because that is going to be the reopening of the East Silhouette Memorial Garden. The group is hoping to have all the work done and have a nice reception that day. But also, and the reason why I really love all of council and staff if they can to participate is Laura Sonoda, who has been working, spearheading this project from Vancouver, has confirmed that her family is their story of the internment camp is being filmed, and it's actually being filmed by the History Channel, and the History Channel is going to be there on May 7th for the reopening, and I think that's really important that we show support and of the feat that's gone on with that thing. So yeah, that's really all I've got to report this week.
Thank you. Councillor Weed?
I'll try to condense my notes.
Thank you.
This isn't something that I've done or anything, but I don't know how many people are aware that our 5-term Area B director, Mickey Macri, passed away on February 8th. There won't be a service or anything, but I thought that, I mean, he gave so much to that Area B and working with First Nations and whatnot, and I just got the email today, so that kind of shook me a bit. He was so much fun to carpool with, even withstanding his cigars. I handled it down the Duffy, and yeah. Anyway, if we could just think about that. 5 terms. 5 terms, ladies. We got a ways to go. January 19th, there was a SILGA meeting, and we discussed a lot about the floods, the fires, being left out of the small communities. And Merit is having a benefit concert online, much like a 12-hour online telethon to with music, entertainment, and personal messages, and taking donations, and so on and so forth, on March 13th from 10 in the morning till 10 at night. The live concert, if it's able to happen, is going to be at the Clark Foundation Theatre in Mission. And anybody can donate to hellerhighwater.ca or Facebook Live at EH Canada Travel. And the money will be going to Merritt, Lytton, and Princeton. And I believe Abbotsford is in there as well, so hopefully it gets distributed evenly. We had a really good discussion on the updates from Princeton, seeing as their mayor sits on the Silva board, and they have people with no food, no housing, and no support for day-to-day living. Like they basically have senior citizens that are couch surfing. It's a really sad situation, and they're feeling really lost and left out. So Silga did have a special meeting on flood and fire, and letters have gone off to all the MLAs, MPs, the federal government, the provincial government, anybody that we could think of to write letters to get on board. So if anybody wants to, get a hold of your MLA, and it's really sad how the small communities get left out. January 26th and 27th, I did Zoom SLRD meetings. We have a new CAO at the SLRD starting on March 7th. His name is Craig Dalton. He's actually from the Maritimes, but is relocating to Squamish from Lethbridge, Alberta. Has a very unique background. I was thinking he would make a great public works manager. But obviously he has higher goals in mind. Has a lot of military background and whatnot, and I thought, that's what we need. Most of the meeting was on establishing service areas for emergency management and the Goldbridge Community Complex renewal leases. And the committee of the whole was basically budget. And then I had the budget meeting here. On February 3rd, we had a NEDIC meeting. We had a really interesting delegation from Forest Enhancement Society, and I did pass the, what do you call it when they have a delegation and they give us yeah, my words are gone tonight. Anyway, I did pass it on to Mr. Diniger. It was all about planting trees on Crown land that wouldn't be reforested otherwise, growing trees faster by fertilization, reducing wildfire risk by utilizing the fiber for pulp and pellets instead of slash burning. And it reduces, I never knew that wood reduces greenhouse gases. Mind you, I am not that person. So they have worked in teams with First Nations up at Williams Lake to come up with a cogen plant, and I had to be that person to ask, could somebody explain what a cogen plant is? Because there again, I'm not a forestry person. And I guess it raises temperatures up to 800 degrees, creates steam, and turns the turbines for energy production and low emissions. And then I got thinking, whatever happened to our pellet plant that there was discussions on? Never heard any more about it. Anyway, it gave me a lot of food for thought that some of this green campaign and lowering emissions is actually going back to the old days of steam, right? Only not using coal. And I'm like, oh, how the world turns, you know, it's kind of like fashion, right? What was cool 50 years ago is coming cool again. We also had a delegation from Suzanne Denbeck, and I was a little disappointed that they did not include Gold Country in her updates on what was going on from Squamish to Lillooet. I did contact Gold Country, and Marcia and Suzanne have now reached out to each other, so hopefully that will change somewhere. And that's it until today.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Move to item 17, report from the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Got a few things for today. Good news from the Recreation Department, the pool is now open 6 days a week for longer hours, thanks to building capacity over time, which takes time. There are more lifeguards now, which means there's more options for staffing. And hopefully it will keep heading forward with more programming as well. In finance, Ms. LaRue is preparing for an audit the week of March 21st, annual fund project audits. In anticipation of adoption of the utility rate bylaw, the March 1st meeting, utility billings will be prepared for mid to late March. Everyone looking forward to their utility bills. And good news for finance, we've just received notification for the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting for the 4th year in a row. Kudos to Lori. Maybe we should do some sort of big ribbon thing. That's why she's remoting you.
Hello, chocolate.
Only if it's in the budget. So for Public Works and Utilities, we are still actively recruiting for a new head of the Public Works Department. We are considering alternative hiring. We'll see how that shakes out. We'll keep council up to date on it. We don't want this recruitment to last forever, but I think it's more important to have the right fit than a quick fit. And we do continue to have the support of Don Darling with projects and odds and ends, and of course the ongoing support of Public Works staff. Now, something that came out recently from Public Works and Utilities, and I'd like the public as well as council to know, is that after many years of basically educated guesses regarding water systems and sewer systems for developments, we now actually have an engineered water model, which allows any subdivision or major development to be modeled prior to great expense, so that the district and the developer can actually make a determination whether or not our system is capable of supporting that subdivision development, or further engineering or upgrades are required. So the water model is done and the sewer model is underway, and it's being done with very little money with the help and expertise of Don Darling and his co-workers in the field. So that'll make development much more straightforward, with less unknowns and less risks for developers and the district. In protective services in the fire department, thanks to council's recent decision to make our director of protective services and fire chief full-time, he started full steam ahead on doing all the things that he's been handcuffed in time to do. So he's tackling our GIS, our mapping systems. He's been working on the garbage collection system, which relies upon mapping. He's assisted other projects like the water model and the sewer model. He's able to now focus more on bylaw enforcement that's been backlogged. So we'll see some progress on that very soon, and as well as the Fire Smart program. Some updates on the Fire Smart program. This is a joint project with the SLRD, Area A and B. We've had the first set of that program was focused on seniors. There were 50 seniors who applied under the Fire Smart program, 32 of them from the District of Lillooet. So the assessments are being done, and now they'll be figuring out how they actually mitigate the risks on their properties. But not to end there, CARE has pushed forward with a non-seniors only Fire Smart program, and we've just received funding approval of over $77,000 to run that program. So that funding will go towards a project management consultant to assist with 8 neighborhood assessments and help with the education of the public on social media, newsletters, website releases, and neighborhood engagement sessions and open houses to both make people aware of this program and just to take their own actions towards protecting the property. So lots of progress in that department. Now that we've got somebody 95. Thank you, and that's my update for today.
Thank you, Mr. Deniger. The meeting is now open to questions from the media and public. There seeing none, I'll ask that someone move that the February 15, 2022 regular council meeting be adjourned. Councillor Leach, second. Councillor Howe. Call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone, for coming, both virtually and in the stands.